Ladies and gentlemen, let's Red Gaming video. We have news concerning Nvidia's new Shield technology, also known as the games console that we mentioned just a couple of days ago. So, Shield hasn't been the most popular of devices. I think it's fair to say that Nvidia maybe overestimated just how crazy the sales were going to be. However, they are still working on the device, and apparently very, very soon, within the next few days, we're going to be hearing of another Shield-based technology platform. This time, it's going to be known as the Shield tablet. So, what exactly the specs and what exactly is going to be the purpose of the Shield tablet? Well, it's apparently going to be an 8-inch device, which is fairly reasonable for a tablet, and it's going to be 1920 by 1200 resolution, which is semi-curious. I think most people expect 1080p now, which obviously means if you're going to be watching movies on it could be a blackboard at a time, but still. 2 GB of RAM, which is fairly reasonable. Tegra K1 SoC. By the way, there's no mention on the specific type of RAM or the speeds yet. A K1 SoC that's featuring 192 CUDA cores and a quad-core 2.2 GHz A15 CPU. There's also going to be a selfie camera, which I suppose is going to be useful if you decide to Skype or do whatever the hell with it. And that's going to be 5 megapixels, which isn't exactly the highest, but it's fairly reasonable specifications given this isn't really aimed at this type of thing anyway. And finally, it features dual speakers. So, supposedly speaking, this is going to have 2 different variants. Now, it's going to be a cheaper model, which is going to be 16 gigabytes. Now, that's going to cost you $299. Now, it's only got Wi-Fi connection. So, in other words, it would be great if you're deciding to, say, use it around the home, that type of thing. On the other hand, if you decide to cough up for the extra 32 gigabyte model, then you get an LTE modem on board. Now, that one, of course, is going to be $100 more, so it's definitely a bit of a price premium. Meanwhile, you might remember there were reports, early reports, of a controller with this thing, and it does indeed appear that there will be a controller. One could be slightly forgiven to say that it looks semi-like, let's say, an Xbox 360 pad. It just has a hair of the Xbox 360 vibe about it, as I'm sure you're probably going to be aware. On the other hand, it does have a fairly large amount of performance with it. So the device is going to be fairly small. Obviously 32 gigabytes of onboard space isn't exactly oodles. I mean, it's not the biggest in the world, but it's not too bad really, to be honest. There is as well a back camera with this. Theoretically it can output to 4K, and it will indeed feature things such as shadow play and all the other bits and pieces you'd expect from Nvidia. So one can argue what exactly is going to be the purpose of this. Well, I could see it really having several different advantages. One of the main ones that's pretty obvious right now is the K1, just like, say, the Titan, does support DX12, it does support tessellation, CUDA 6 and so on. But while it's very exciting to, go through the feature list it can support, obviously it doesn't have quite the performance levels there to well, kick it into such a high gear, but it will be very powerful for a mobile device in terms of raw G-flops, as I've mentioned previously. It is around an Xbox 360. There is a decent amount of memory on board as well. Obviously, we're not quite sure how light the OS is going to be. Rumours have it it's going to be some variant of the Android OS, but we're not exactly sure which variant or which version, and so on and so forth. However, it's looking to be kind of shiny. So the question is, are you going to buy it? Well, it can work out pretty expensive. For example, if you wanted to buy the full 32 gigabyte model, which is $400, plus the controller, $60, plus, as well, you can get the Shield cover, which basically allows you to pretty much prop it up. You're going to be looking at, well, around $500 for that, which is pretty expensive when you think about it. I mean, you could definitely buy cheaper tablets. On the other hand, This sucker is obviously primarily focused on gaming. So there are definitely going to be those who wanted to buy it. Obviously as well, it does have benefits, such as being able to stream directly to the device. It sounds cool. Personally, I would have liked to have seen a slightly more powerful K1 or another version of the K1. But I guess we're just going to have to see what the benchmarks say. Obviously right now Nvidia are releasing a couple of benchmarks which put it to be pretty high, but then again it's competing against things such as the iPad Air, and it's also very difficult because it's not really games, they're just things such as graphics bench. So for example, the most unhelpful benchmark ever would be GFX Bench 3 scores, let's see, with a iPad Air, about maybe 1.5, literally just 1.5. That's what they're showing on this benchmark. On the other hand, it's just over 3 with the Shield. But that synthetic benches aren't necessarily indicative of what you're going to see in a game. So I figure the best option here is to just wait. Another one that Nvidia are pushing is, for example, the data rate for the controller. The Bluetooth controller is 3 Mbps. Shield wireless controller is hitting around 24. Once again, lower latency, however, considerably lower latency, is looking at 10 ms versus 20 of the traditional Bluetooth. So this is pretty nice, but obviously very early on yet. So we're going to have to kind of wait and see how everything plays out. Anyway, hopefully you've enjoyed the video. I'll see you soon. Take care, and bye for now.